Are you ready to embark on a journey of exploration and unlock the magic of your wonder? There is so much more in the universe than we have been shown. It is time to ask those questions, dissolve those barriers, and embrace your extraordinary life. Here is your fellow explorer in the realm of curiosity and discovery, with almost 20 years of inviting people to embrace the greatness of them, Donnielle Carter.
Hello, welcome everybody. I am Donnielle, your fellow explorer and your host for today on the exploration of wonder. And who am I? Thank you for asking. I am a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I've been an empowerment coach for almost 2 decades. And thank you for not thinking I look that old that I could be doing it for 2 decades already. You're so sweet. But it's been so much fun to be an empowerment coach and a health and wellness coach for almost 20 years now, to really help people discover the best in them, to have that confidence, to make the changes, to, enjoy their life, enjoy their body, get happy, and be fantastic, just really fantastical. Yes, I make up words as I go. And if you listened to last week's episode, it was the energy of words. What is the energy of a word used? I talk all about the energies of words, so please do check that out. And if you ever want to explore more of the stuff that I offer, because I offer private sessions, coaching sessions, classes, courses, pre-recorded, done for you already. It's like, check it out at donnielle.com, DONNIELLE.com. And in this amazing world that we're exploring, the seen and the unseen, if you have any topic that you're curious about, if you have anything that's like, I'm wondering about this and I'd love to dig deeper into it, I want to too. So please send me an email at hello@donnielle.com and see if I can get it into the rotation of shows of things that we can explore in this amazing, beautiful, curious, mysterious, fantastical, I'm going to use the word again, fantastical universe that we have. So, what are we talking about today? It's going to be a fun one, my friends. We are talking about the power of yes. All right, the power of yes. And spoiler alert, I just opened up some random thing with my notes. Live TV, you gotta love it. All right, so here's a spoiler alert though with the Power of Yes show. This is not gonna be one of those episodes where I'm just gonna end with, so say yes to everything. No, you absolutely should say no to things sometimes. You absolutely should say yes to things sometimes. This is not the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey, which is a funny movie. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. It's kind of fun. But yeah, so this is not going to be, at the end, I'm not going to be like, say yes to everything. No. No. Sometimes you do need to say no. And that's what we're going to get into today, right? When do you say yes and when do you say no, and why would you say yes and why aren't you saying yes? All right, so let's break it down. What's interesting is where the idea of this came from is I study a lot of everything. And I was reading up years ago, I was reading up on this psychology study where saying no as a child is our first expression of power, okay? So we use no and we push away things as a way to keep our power, and that's why we've been learning to say no instead of yes, and we're going to get into that a lot because it's really the basis of what we're talking about today. But first, let me explain another theory, okay? It's called the theory of autonomy. It took me a while to figure out all those words, that how you say that, autonomy. Because the way you look at it, you want to say autonomy, but it's not, it's autonomy. Anyways, so the theory of autonomy, because it's really at the basis of all of this, okay? Is the theory and the idea that we need to experience our own behavior as voluntary. okay? And that has to be our choice. It has to be intrinsically motivated. And intrinsically just means it comes from us, okay? That we have made the choices, we are the motivation. It comes from in instead of out, okay? That is basic. Anytime you see anything that's like, oh, use intrinsic motivation, it goes into that the motivation has to come from you. It's like, I want to do this, not I was told to do this, okay? Basically, that's the theory of autonomy, is the theory that we need to experience our own behavior as voluntary, which means our choices, our control, our life, our creations, our everything, okay? So that is the theory of autonomy. I just wanted to throw it out there because I'm going to say the word autonomy throughout the show, and I wanted you guys to know what that actually meant, okay? So, I mentioned childhood, and I mentioned the word no. And what's interesting is really to reclaim the power of yes, the word yes, and the energy behind it, and the doors that it opens. Starts with that no. We say no in childhood, okay? And basically, when a child says no, it helps them to define their sense of self, assert independence, establish their own boundaries, to get to know themselves, what they can do, what they can't do. It's a whole psychological thing of like the no phase of childhood, okay? We're not going to get into it a whole lot, but we do need to talk about it a little bit. It's like, how often have we seen child screaming, no, right? Well, that's the first form of power. Because if you think about it, we're born. I know, shocking, but we're born. And then people, our parents usually, start telling us what to do. They're educating us, right? But our little, newborn brains are going, stop telling me what to do all the time. And so even when we want to say no, or even when we want to say yes with this theory of autonomy, we're going to start saying no. And so what kids see is they go, their parents are like, eat this, do this, have this. No, no. And then they fight, right? We've all seen it. We've all done it as a child. And then we standing up for ourselves, again, pushing those boundaries, exploring our universe, seeing where our power is, how we relate to other people is a whole big thing, okay? And so what's interesting is in this, it's so fascinating to watch it, because like I was over at my niece's house last week, and my grandniece, who had been really sick recently, like in the hospital sick, right? And so I was over there, and my niece was, I'll just call her mom, so you're not confused about niece and grandniece, but her mother was feeding my grandniece food, right? And during these like 3 weeks, she was really sick. She didn't eat much, so she had gotten really thin. And so her mom was like feeding her this chicken and pasta. And her mom was so glad that she was eating, because again, she had been sick. And when you're really feeling bad and like in the hospital, you don't eat. You're like, ugh, food. And so the mom said, make sure and eat all of your chicken, because, protein helps build muscles and all of that kind of stuff. And so what was my grandniece's response? No, I don't want the chicken. And so they went back and forth a couple of times of, yes, eat this. No, I don't want it. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then finally the mom was like, fine, give me the chicken back. At least you're eating the pasta. Like the mom was just glad the child was finally eating, right? And what was interesting is I could see my grandniece's mind at work of going, so when I say no, I get my way and I have more control. Not that her little universe was thinking about control, right? But she was like, oh, I have, again, adult words, but you can see it percolating in her brain. I have control of my environment. I can create my own life. This is how I have power. I have to say no. Got it. Okay. No is the key. No is the key. Have power, say no. Control, create my life. Okay, say no. Because if I had said yes to my mom, it would have been because she chose it, not me. She wanted me to eat the chicken. And you notice it's like my grannies could have wanted the chicken, but the moment her mom said, make sure you eat the chicken, she went, no. Which goes back to the self-autonomy thing, where we want to look at we are responsible for our choices, that we are intrinsically motivated, and that we have the capacity to choose and create our life. Okay? And so our little lives, when we start our brains, we're not thinking that motivated thoughts, but we do learn quite quickly that when we say no, we can self-govern, we self-regulate, and have a modicum of impact into our environment in life, where everything else is controlled by mom and dad. Okay, so I want you to start looking at that. It's like, look back upon the times you said no as a way of asserting control and governing your life. Okay, why am I going so much into this no word? Because we have learned that no is the safe place to be, and that yes is a ledge we leap off of that is scary. Okay, and a lot of it excuse me, and a lot of it stems from this early childhood thing of saying no, that no phase. Okay, but I hope you guys are beginning to see this. It's like when I first read this study years ago, I'm like, I can totally see how I said no as a tried way to control. Because as kids, we tend to be a bit reactionary. You ever notice that? I would love to say we grow out of that phase, but I don't think we have. I don't think we ever grow out of the reactionary phase. Anyway, that's a discussion for another time. But so we do this, and so we're like, okay, so if I say yes, I'm giving in. And that's an important part to this. Say no, I have control. Say yes, I'm giving in. And then it's their choice, their control. And again, this goes against our self-autonomy. Told you that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I keep coming back to it. That ability to self-govern, regulate, and control and create our lives in the way we think it should. Because even though we have this little body as a kid, we come in knowing stuff, which is a whole other topic. But we come in knowing stuff. We come in going, you know what? I'm here to do this in the world, and this and this and this. And then you're starting to tell me everything what to do. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. And so we can't comprehend in these early learning stages that my grandniece could have said yes to the chicken because her body wanted it, she wanted it, but she only saw it as giving in to her mom because her mom said, now make sure and eat the chicken. This is not a parenting one, though. No, don't worry, we're not going to go more into parenting. That's a whole other thing that I don't have a lot of expertise on. If you want to talk about being a fantastical aunt, I got you. But so I hope you guys are beginning to see this, where we were conditioned as a kid to say no as power, control, and regulation, and that yes was giving in, even if we wanted to do it. There's a whole other theory about that, but it really relates to the self-autonomy thing. That's like, you told me to do it, and that means you want me to do it, and you chose it for me, so even if I want to do it, I am not going to do it. Have you guys ever noticed that? When somebody tells you to do something, your automatic response is no. They're like, well, weren't you just going to do that? Yes, but now that you've told me, I'm not going to. Excuse me. You can't tell me what to do, even if it's just what I was going to do. And now that I know you want me to do it, I'm not going to do it. Sound like anybody else's head? Anybody else ever had that fairly recently? Yeah, we're cute that way. We are so cute that way, my friends. How it's this thing of like intrinsic motivation. I should do a whole show on that. But intrinsic motivation, about how we use it to sabotage ourselves sometimes, because it's like, how many, with this no yes thing, How many times have we been like, oh, that's a great idea, but I didn't think of it, so I'm not doing it? Has to come from me. Well, when we get later into the power of yes, actually changing it to a yes mindset, things can be funner. I know, crazy thing, but things can be funner. And we're going to go to break here soon, but let me remind you, this is not a show where I'm going to tell you, say yes to everything. Absolutely not. There are 100% times in your life you should say no. And that is the most empowering thing. But how often are you not saying yes because of a reactionary state or a learned behavior that gives you a false sense of control and that it's stopping the creation of your life? Okay, so that's what this is really about, is to help you see and do it from the energy. What will create the future? Yes or no? Yes or no instead of no. Yes, just to shut you up, I'm going to say yes. But right now I am going to say yes to a commercial break because I can. So you are watching the Exploration of Wonder with me, your host and fellow explorer, Donnielle, and we are on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
Ever feel like there's more to life than meets the eye? A sense of wonder just beyond your grasp? Are you ready to create a life that inspires you so much that each day you are excited to wake up and live it? Join Donnielle Carter, a nationally board-certified health and wellness coach, weekly as she explores the universe on the exploration of wonder. Explore everything from harnessing the power of your mindset to connecting with your intuition and harnessing the energetic forces around us. With a blend of humor, warmth, directness, and a dash of cheekiness, Donnielle shares easy-to-use, pragmatic, yet magical techniques you can implement immediately to infuse your life with wonder. Join us as we navigate the fascinating landscapes of the seen and unseen, and together create lives filled with joy, purpose, and boundless possibility.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Exploration of Wonder with your guide, Donnielle. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to hello@donnielle.com. Now back to the exploration.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Exploration of Wonder. I am your host and fellow explorer, Donnielle, and I do offer sessions and classes and workshops, both pre-recorded, already done, that you can download immediately while listening to this show, or upcoming ones. I have a lot of fun stuff going on all the time. So please do check it out at donnielle.com. And, you know, in that thing, I have a program that is really fun. It's called 90 Days to Actualized. And it's like all of those places where it's like, I've been putting that off and I've not been doing it. I need somebody to like hold my hand. Well, let me hold your hand. Okay, in this power of yes, I will help you get to that yes and to actually create. And in 90 days, it's been scientifically proven that you can change a habit. In 90 days, you can change anything. Okay, it's so amazing what you can do in 90 days. So it's called 90 Days to Actualized. And it's a really in-depth, let's get this done. And you can check it out under my session tab at donnielle.com. All right, so today we're talking about the power of yes. And in the first segment, we were talking about how we learned no as a child. That no was our first expression of potency, of self-regulation, of self-governing, of that ability to impact our environment instead of just being the effect of it, instead of just being like, do everything mom and dad says, I'm going to push back, right? And I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and now those nieces and nephews are having kids. And so I've always said motherhood and fatherhood is not for the weak. Honestly, it's one of the jobs that scared me the most. I didn't have kids this lifetime because it's scary. Well, it's a lot of work, and I applaud anybody who does it. So this is in no way making mom and dads wrong. It's just to look at the place where it's like we come in, the kids come in, and we start educating them of how this world works, basically. And so we'll do things like, no, don't touch the stove, or yes, eat your chicken, or whatever. And so these cute, precious, adorable little kids start pushing and discovering themselves. Because remember, like my mom used to say all the time to my oldest brother, who was the first in her 5 kids, he would always be like, how come you were so much better with the other 4? And she's like, well, you have to remember, I've only been a mom as long as you've been alive. I'm still learning this too. Okay. So parents are learning, the kids are learning, and the kids during these formative years are learning that when they push against their parents, when they say no, when they say, I'm not going to do that, they're not just being ornery. They are actually expressing themselves. They're learning themselves what they can do, what they can't do, how to stand up for themselves, and a number of things. I tried to tell one of my other nieces, I'm like, well, he's just learning to stand up for himself, but he's using you. She's like, thanks. I'm like, sorry. Want a cookie? Anyways, and so what's interesting is, so we learned this about the childhood saying no, and then we growing up, right? And then we add on other things to this power of no. I'll get to the power of yes, but we have to really explore this power of no, because this is where we have so much that makes us into this reactive state instead of this proactive, action-oriented state of life creation, okay? So not only do we learn as a kid the power of no, of self-governing regulation, but then we have societal expectations, okay? What do I mean by that? It's that place where it's like people become hesitant to say yes. Have you guys ever experienced that? I know I have. I've had some people ask me questions. They're like, oh, do you want to do this or da 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 da? And I'm like, why? Why? Oh, do you want to have this? Why? What do you want? Right? And so we go into this thing where yes becomes a gamble. It's a risk. It's the unknown. The number of times I've heard the expression, better to say no than to say yes and regret it. And now, knowing what I know, I'm like, that's a horrible expression. That is an absolutely horrible expression. Better to say no than to say yes and regret it. No. And I don't know what star it is. Some actor, I can't remember it. They said something about the effect of like, I'd rather live my life and say yes and regret it than live my life as having said no and regret nothing, right? And so that's an interesting place to come from. It's not quite where I'm coming from today, but you gotta like admire the chutzpah, okay? But how often have we heard that, right? Better to say no than to say yes and regret it. And here's what's an interesting thing, is the number of people I've talked to about this, and they're like, well, if I say yes, I become responsible for that person or event. And more specifically, if I say yes, then I am responsible to that person or event. And that too is a very important distinction, because if we say yes, if we say yes, and then we become responsible to that person or event, we've thrown away our self-regulation. We've thrown away our autonomy. Again, in appearance, right? This is when we're in that reactive state. And so with what we learned in childhood, and we think we become responsible to, we've given up control. Now, I'm going to say the word control a lot in this episode, and control has been given a bad rep, okay? There are times, like in private sessions, I'm like, you need to control that situation. And then there's other times when you say, like, you can give up control. So that's a whole big topic, but we're going to talk about control a little bit today. But so we've learned in societal things that when we say yes, then we're responsible for it, to it. We have no choice then. We have to go. We have to do all this kind of stuff. And I was talking with my nephew last night. I have a lot of nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews. So when I say I talk to my nephew or niece, it could be about 35 different people. Not even joking. Anyway, so welcome to my head. So I was talking with my nephew last night, and he's had a big life change. And he's like, well, if I do this, then he wants to be a counselor possibly. I'm like, great, let's do it. And he's like, well, I'd have to do this, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd have to do the path and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why don't you start exploring applying to these colleges so you know you have the choice? You can always say no later. And he's like, I guess I could say no. Because in his universe, if he had said, quote unquote, yes, by starting to apply to these schools or looking into programs, he was trapped into it. His autonomy was gone. It was all about being responsible and beholden to the school and that path, instead of going, okay, I've applied and I got accepted, but I don't want to do this anymore, right? So he had thought if he started, he couldn't ever stop. Okay, so that's the societal expectations. And then another part of this that's a biggie is fear of the unknown. Okay, this is where the conditioning, all this kind of stuff, conditioning builds onto that power of no phase in childhood, right? So fear of the unknown. Because here's the interesting thing. When we say no, and then we stick with what we know. I'm good, not gonna change anything, I know it, right? Even if we don't like it. How many people have you seen, maybe even experienced yourself, they were like, I want to change my life. I want to have something better. And you or them or I are like, okay, well, what actions are you taking to change it? I just need to change it. I get that. What actions are you going to do? What steps are you going to take? My life needs to change. Yes, I get that. And what actions are you taking? And here for me, that's that underlying energy of yes and no. They say no to everything else because they might get that change, but then they have this fear of the unknown, fear of the future, and then they can't control it. This like jumping off that ledge of like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Well, it could give you everything you desire. But we so have this conditioning and fear of saying yes, and just that automatic reaction of no, that it can be hard to overcome sometimes, okay? And again, I'm saying all this kind of stuff to help you get to why, look and see why possibly sometimes in your life you said no without even knowing why. It's like, why did I say no? I really wanted to do that. Because some people feel that's more comfortable, okay? It's that adage of the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Even if the devil you know sucks, you know you can survive it. You know you're miserable, but you know how to be miserable in this way. So you don't say yes to anything else because that becomes the unknown, okay? And what's interesting is I know some people who have been more comfortable in their stuckness and their saying no to everything, new possibilities, new jobs, new everything. And it leads to fear because it actually just magnifies that fear of, oh my gosh, I don't know what the future is going to be. And right now sucks. It magnifies it, right? Depression and that feeling that nothing will change. And sadly, that feeling's true because if you never say yes to anything, nothing will change, okay? So, like I said, so our control locks out the future. Somebody asked in the chat room. Sometimes if you're controlling by automatically always saying no, absolutely, it locks out the future. Because like I said at the beginning, sometimes you are going to need to say yes. Sometimes you are going to need to say no. But when you're doing it without thought, without question, without energy, which is what we're going to get into in the next segment, when you are not being aware of those elements, yes, you automatically will lock out your future because you're automatically rejecting anything that a yes energy can actually contribute to creating. Okay. All right. So with that said, we are going to go to our next break. And when we come back, we are going to get into the transformative power of yes. And then later in the show, I'm also going to give you some tips on okay, so we learned why we react to say no. We learned the power of yes. When do I say yes and when do I say no? We're going to share some of those later in the show as well. All right. So you are listening to the Exploration of Wonder with me, your host, Donnielle, and fellow explorer, and we are on the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
Ever feel like there's more to life than meets the eye? A sense of wonder just beyond your grasp? Are you ready to create a life that inspires you so much that each day you are excited to wake up and live it? Join Donnielle Carter, a nationally board-certified health and wellness coach, weekly as she explores the universe on the exploration of wonder. Explore everything from harnessing the power of your mindset to connecting with your intuition and harnessing the energetic forces around us. With a blend of humor, warmth, directness, and a dash of cheekiness, Donnielle shares easy-to-use, pragmatic, yet magical techniques you can implement immediately to infuse your life with wonder. Join us as we navigate the fascinating landscapes of the seen and unseen, and together create lives filled with joy, purpose, and boundless possibility.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Exploration of Wonder with your guide, Donnielle. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to hello@donnielle.com. Now back to the exploration.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Exploration of Wonder. I am your host, Donnielle, and I have been a empowerment coach, health and wellness coach for almost 20 years. And so if you ever get there's anything I can contribute to you on a one-on-one chat, please do reach out. Go to donnielle.com, and I have so many different session packages there, and then also classes you can download right now, and always future creations going on. There's always something brewing in the cauldron over at donnielle.com. And if you do have any show suggestions, I would love to hear about it. So please email me at hello@donnielle.com, and let's explore. All right, my friends. So today we are talking about the power of yes. And in the first half of the show, we really talked about where we get this automatic reaction of no, right? We're testing our boundaries as kids. We're learning to self-regulate, self-govern, to have some control. And then we throw on top of it fear of unknown, societal expectations, all that kind of yay fun and gooey stuff. All right, so what is the transformative power of yes? All right, so this is where I talk again about the energy, okay? If you've listened to any of my shows, I'm always talking about the energy, because for me, it is all about the energy. Whether we're being verbal or physical or anything, it is about the energy, okay? And so when we look at the energy of a reactive no, where we do it without thought, without question, without really considering the situation, when we just go, no, look at that energy. It stops it dead. It is no forward momentum. I mean, it's like running into a brick wall. No. I mean, have you guys ever argued with a kid? When you're like, clean your room. No. What's that energy like? Running into a brick wall. Kind of feels like it too, right? And so that's that reactive, not looking at the situation, not asking questions. Okay. So with the energy of yes, you are literally, energetically opening a door. Okay. When you say yes to things, you're going, okay, universe, what's out there? Okay, universe, I'm willing to explore. Okay, self, we're going to change this. Okay, self, we are not going to be only in a reactive state, but we are going to be in an action state. Okay. So this is where the energy of all this comes in. Okay. The power of yes, it's transformative power of yes. And I like to call it transformative because it can transform what your life looked like a second ago. All right. And so what it's, like I said, it's opening the doors. And what's interesting is I've been in the, let's call it change industry for almost 20 years, empowerment coaching, all of that kind of stuff, right? For almost 20 years. And that's just the years I was certified. Doesn't count the years where I was just doing it because I could. Because, you know, those of us in professions like this, they start off with all the kids in the playground coming and asking for help. Yeah. So 20 years, almost 20 years certified. And not just certified crazy. I heard that. But certified for being a coach. And I might be the crazy one too. But so I've been working in this change industry for almost 20 years now. And it's amazing how many people are afraid of change. They're fearful of it, right? I have truly facilitated, coached thousands of people, whether it's through big group classes or one-on-one. And it's not an estimate, it's not a guess. I have a database. And they come to me and say, I want to change this. And then we talk mostly about why they're not changing it. And that's what's interesting, is getting to the root of like why they're not changing it, why they're not saying yes. See? And so they are fearful of this change. So it's really interesting. And I know some people are like, well, people fear, they equate change with death and da 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 da. And yeah, there's some of that, absolutely. But I've also seen the majority of the people I tend to work with is they don't change their life because they're fear of the unknown. Okay. Because in that program I mentioned earlier, 90 Days to Actualized, we actually at the beginning go into it's like, okay, so you haven't been doing this. What have you decided would occur if it happened, if you actually achieve this? And it's interesting the things that come up, because a lot of people like, my life would change too much. I wouldn't know who I am. I would have loss of control. It's really interesting the things that come up. And so we always say, I want to change this, but then we're hesitant to say yes to the things that will change it because we don't actually want to walk through that door. So it's very interesting. Okay. So saying yes can actually help open those doors when you are ready. And then it's also stepping outside of your comfort zone, because how many of us don't actually want to admit it, but we have settled into a life and comfortable life that we know we can survive. Okay. It's really interesting the number of people who have been like, well, I know I can survive today, but if it changes too much, I don't know how I'm going to survive tomorrow. Or if I achieve what I desire and then I lose it, I don't know how I'll survive that. And so we are hesitant to say yes because it is stepping outside of our comfort zone. But how much fun could that be? So again, look at that energy. You're like, if you're truly asking for this change, step out. You need to step outside your comfort zone. Okay. And you know, I mean, you can expand your horizons, and there's a number of things. And so what's interesting is I have a dear friend who, she didn't want to sell her apartment, but the energy and the universe kept giving her clues and cues, and just was like, hurting her, there's the word, hurting her into this selling her apartment. And she was like, she didn't want to do it. She kept saying no, she kept saying no, she kept saying no. So for about a year, she's like, no, 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 no. And then she finally was like, okay, yes, I'll sell my apartment. I'll sell my apartment. And then the second it was listed, she texted me and she's like, it's really weird, but I'm excited. I am now excited to see what tomorrow will bring, right? So before that, she had been like, it feels like I'm spinning out of control. Keywords there. Spinning out of control, and I don't know who I'll be or where I'll go. Okay. So she kept saying no to maintain that level of comfort, even though it was a level of discomfort. That level of discomfort was comfortable. Okay. So she kept saying no to control that. And now that she has said yes to all the cues and the signs that the universe was telling her, do this, now that she said yes and the energy is flowing that direction, she's like, I am so excited. I'm like, I know, this is the lightest your universe has been in over a year. It's very exciting to see. Okay. And for me, a personal one is I recently had to go to a party. I know that's a funny way of saying that, of like, I had to go to a party, but I had to go to a party. The whys and it aren't important, but I didn't like a lot of the people I was going to see at the party. I didn't want to interact with them, and honestly, I'm not an over social person. For as much as I talk, I'm one of those introvert extroverts, you know. Anyway, it's a whole other psychological thing. And so I'm like, fine, if I go, what will my future be like? And so I said yes, and I went. And again, this is not one of those stories where I go, and I had such an amazing time. I'm so glad I went. Now, the evening was pretty much exactly like I thought it would be. I mean, I did go, I'm going to have fun because I'm just going to make it fun. But my interactions with the people and everything was almost exactly what I knew. I knew these people, right? I knew it was going to be like. But what was interesting is, for me, the yes, what it opened the door to is a memory. Because I had kind of forgotten something about myself. And so for that party, I had to get dressed up, like updo hair to the nines, all like really fancy. It was a fancy party. And what was interesting is dressing up like that, getting into that energy of like, hello, here I am. It reminded me of so much of energies that I had forgotten about myself, that I had forgotten the past few years. And so sliding back into that energy of like, oh yeah, hi, I'm visible. I'm out. Hi, yes, hi. Ooh, yeah, you like this? Yeah, thank you. Right, it was so fun. It was like sliding into that most comfortable pair of jeans. And so it's not like, oh, I'm so glad I had such a fun time. I was like, when I said yes to this, got me out of my comfort zone, and it reminded me of an aspect and energy of myself that I had comfortably forgotten. And so I was so glad I said yes to that party. All right. And so what kinds of yeses are there? There's yes to adventure, to connections, to self-care, big one. Please do yes to self-care. It is not something that's like, oh, when I have time. It is vital for your thrival in this universe to have self-care. And yes to intuition. And we're going to get more into that when we come back, because we're going to take a break here soon. But we're going to get more into that of yes to intuition, because as I've said, it's all about the energy. Okay, because we've looked at the energy of that reactive no. It's like hitting the brick wall. And then the energy of the transformative yes, and it's creating things. Okay. And as I've said repeatedly, this is not a show that I'm saying you always have to say no and you always have to say yes. Absolutely not. It is about getting aware of the energy, following that intuition. So saying yes to intuition. You're like, oh, you spun that. You say yes to intuition so that you know when to say yes and when to say no, and which one will actually create your life. Because that's what we're into. Well, at least that's hope. That's what you're into, is creating your life, enjoying your life, and having, I like to say that I hope people have a life that so inspires them that they are excited to wake up in the morning. That they wake up and go, yes, I'm in my life and I can't wait to have more of my life today. I am inspired, okay, by me. Not me, you, me. All right. So when we come back, we're going to touch on that of how to follow that intuition and know when to say yes and when to say no, and have it be a creation instead of a stopping point. All right. So my name is Donnielle. I am your host, your fellow explorer. And if you desire anything from me, if I can be your coach at any time, you want a one-on-one chat, please do reach out on my website, donnielle.com, DONNIELLE.com. And I can't wait to chat with you one-on-one. And you are watching the Exploration of Wonder on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
Ever feel like there's more to life than meets the eye? A sense of wonder just beyond your grasp? Are you ready to create a life that inspires you so much that each day you are excited to wake up and live it? Join Donnielle Carter, a nationally board-certified health and wellness coach, weekly as she explores the universe on the exploration of wonder. Explore everything from harnessing the power of your mindset to connecting with your intuition and harnessing the energetic forces around us. With a blend of humor, warmth, directness, and a dash of cheekiness, Donnielle shares easy-to-use, pragmatic, yet magical techniques you can implement immediately to infuse your life with wonder. Join us as we navigate the fascinating landscapes of the seen and unseen, and together create lives filled with joy, purpose, and boundless possibility. This is the Exploration of Wonder with your guide, Donnielle. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to hello@donnielle.com. Now back to the exploration.
Donnielle, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Welcome back to the Exploration of Wonder. I am your host and your fellow explorer. And I say that cheekily, but I do mean it. I love to learn. I love to explore. I love to be curious. I'm always learning or reading or listening or watching something. And so if you have anything like that, please do share it at hello@donnielle.com. All right. So we are talking about the power of yes. All right. And so for the first part of the show, we were talking about how where we learn to say no, the transformative power of yes. And last segment, I introduced that it's about the intuition of it all. Whether you want to call it following the energy, asking questions, psychic ability, awareness, knowing, there's 1,000 words, but it's about the energy. And, and I talked about that when we do that reactive no. It's like slamming a door. It stops the energy. And when we say yes to something that will create our lives, the energy expands. The energy just explodes into possibility. Okay? So how do you know? Well, I'm going to say the word that a lot of people hate because I've hated it. Practice. Okay. First, one of the things you want to do is really look at where, like, next time you're presented with a situation and you want to automatically go, no, stop and go, wait a minute, right? And this is that being present with it and being aware of it. It's like, wait a minute, I really just want to react to say no right now. Where is this coming from? Right? Asking a question, where is this coming from? Because the energy is that slap you in the face, slam the door, no. All right, so I'm not being present with the energies. I'm just reacting. What am I reacting to? Is it a childhood thing? Is it remind me of something else? Like, to really look at it, where is this coming from? And then, so challenge that limiting belief and kind of reframe it. It's like, what keeps you from saying yes? What are you aware of? What are you avoiding? Okay. And then trust yourself. Okay. And spoiler alert, that's what next week's show is going to be about, is can you trust yourself? Which I think is a fun title. Anyway, but trust yourself, trust your intuition, follow the energies and practice, trust you and the universe, because whether you're saying yes or whether you're saying no, if it's a no, that creates your life, the universe and energy will expand. It feels like more is possible. Like you can take a deep breath. Sometimes you can get tingling in your body. Can you get tingling from saying no? Absolutely. When it's a no that is honoring to you instead of a reactive no that you're just doing to shut everything down. And sometimes you say yes to just shut people up, and that's not actually really creating your life either. That's going to have that slap you in the face stop energy, okay? Because at the end of the day, there is a power to saying yes, and there is a power to saying no. It's really about trusting yourself, about knowing that because you say yes, you still have control of your life, okay? When you're doing it from the awareness, from following the energy, from the practice of it, sorry to say that word again, you can have that self-autonomy. You can be like, yeah, they may have suggested it, they may have shown it to me, but I want to do it. I'm choosing it. Because when you say yes to something like that, you have to acknowledge you are the one choosing it. No one can force you to do anything that you're not willing to do, as evidenced by the power of no, and why I started with that, because we're retraining ourselves, rewiring ourselves. We are fixing those neural pathways that automatically make us want to go, no, okay? And so there are times also when you're going to say yes just to shut somebody up. I get that. Sometimes that can be a bigger, still expand your universe. But if you're saying yes to just make somebody else happy or shut them up or whatever it is, are you resenting that, right? It's that noble sacrifice. Are you resenting that? Are you giving up your life for others? Because if you have any of that energy, then there is no power of yes. You've just stopped the energy, and you've given up control of your life to somebody else and then been pissed about it and resented them. We've all had those moments, and I wish I had more time to get into that specifically, and maybe I'll do a whole show on like choosing for me or choosing for all of us. And but when you do a yes or you do a no, and the energy is flowing, you feel like you can breathe, that's when you know you're actually following the energy, creating your life, having that fun, okay? Sometimes it's about some timing, sometimes it's just, it's not now, or sometimes it's not now, and sometimes it's a definite yes. And sometimes it's not a definite yes, but it's a soft yes. There's a whole other thing, okay? But practice. Am I saying no out of reflex? Am I avoiding? Am I aware of something? Okay? Because you can say no because you're aware of something, or you can say yes because you're aware of something. Like me going to that party. I did not want to go to that party. All my friends knew that. So when I said I had to go, I had to go. But I said yes because it matched the energy of that. I'm like, if I say yes, what will the energy be like? And it was like, boom. And I'm like, yay. And then I started my show again right afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, that energy, that's a lot of fun. Okay. So just take practice, my friends, because we are rewriting these learned behaviors from childhood. And that's why I spent so much time on it at the beginning, because we learned from the beginning to say no as a control, as a domination, as a self-governing, as that self-autonomy. I am control of my life. See, I said no. Well, now I challenge you, my friends, to be in that control, to have that fun, to creation, and say yes to some things. But follow the energy. Sometimes creating your life is going to be a no. Sometimes creating your life is going to be yes. But do it from action. Do it from being present. Do it from that place where you're like, this is creation. This is moving you down that current of energy, that forward momentum, as I like to say, instead of that slap you in the face and knock your head into a wall energy, because that's just not fun. It is just not fun. And we've all done it. I know I've done it a few times. So please do. Am I saying yes? Am I saying no? Just have it match the energy so that it can actually create your life instead of stop your life, okay? And next week is, can you trust yourself? I thought that would be a fun follow-up to this one. Can you trust yourself? I know some people are going to say no. And I get that. And again, just like with this learning to say no as a childhood, there's things where you say, I can't trust myself because of X, Y, and Z. So we're going to go into that. So thank you for being with me today. keep exploring, keep being curious, and have a fun, fantastical week. Go to Donnielle.com if there's anything I can contribute to you. And in the meantime, have a fun week, and I'll see you next week, my friends. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for exploring with us today. Donnielle returns Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, 1 p.m. Pacific. Until then, be curious, be wonder, and explore the magical universe around you.